I got my music back, everybody. Look at that. For whatever reason, I would, I always put that tone at the end of my videos when I did these videos last year. And then, of course, around like May or June, I stopped doing them. And then, when I went back to do them this year, that tone wasn't on my phone. And so, whatever it was, like a couple days ago, all of a sudden it came back. It just reappeared on my phone. So, yeah, I got my music tune back there, everybody. But anyway, this is John Breeden. It is February 21st, 2020. We are now 4 days removed from a horrifying wreck at the end of the Daytona 500 involving Ryan Newman. And the latest update we had was 2 days ago when Newman was seen walking out of the hospital. He was released from the hospital hand in hand with his two daughters, and probably the best news we've gotten all week. And I don't really know what else to add about the incident. Pretty much everything I've felt about the incident, and what I was thinking when the incident happened, and things like that were in the last video I did on Wednesday. So I do want to add a couple of more things, and I probably already said this on the Wednesday show, but this is definitely a wake-up call for NASCAR. And it's a wake-up call in the sense that, as safe as NASCAR is, and it is very safe compared to obviously years prior, it's the safest it's ever been. And it's still a wake-up call in the sense that no matter how safe it is, bad things can still happen to drivers. Drivers can still get injured. Drivers can, have very serious injuries. This can happen. And it's absolutely a wake-up call that, NASCAR is very safe, but there's always still room for improvement. You never want to settle. I know that's kind of, almost an old saying when, you finally think you've made it, or you finally think you've gotten as high as you can in whatever it might be, and all of a sudden you realize you're not, and there's always room for improvement. And I obviously give NASCAR a lot of credit that the sport is very safe, but at the same time, you can't get comfortable with it, because things like this can happen. And I'm not saying NASCAR got comfortable with the fact that, oh, well, our sport is so safe, there's no reason for improvement. I don't believe that for a second. I'm just saying, these things can still happen. And there are obviously going to be changes that are made, and what those changes are, I have no idea. And it's kind of just a wait and see thing. So I was watching Race Hub, I think Wednesday night, and Andy Petrie was on there, and they were talking about, the driver safety and things like that. Austin Dillon was on there too, and they were kind of showing, one of those 3D graphics of kind of like the interior of the car, like they showed like the roll cage and things like that, and they were talking about different safety features that have been put in, things like intrusion panels that are put in like on the driver's side, to where if it prevents like from, whether it's like just things coming through the side of the driver's door, like things breaking through and getting into the cockpit, I guess like debris and things like that. So they kind of showed that, and they showed how they moved the driver's seat kind of more towards the center of the car, and that keeps them protected. They also showed what they call the Earnhardt bar, which was kind of just it's a bar in the roll cage that kind of goes across the car from the hood to the back, and that was put in after Earnhardt had a bad crash at Talladega, where he kind of got hit in the hood, very similar to Newman's wreck, except Earnhardt got hit like on the top of the car. It wasn't in like the driver's window. But and they also showed the what they call the Newman bar, and the Newman bar kind of goes like across the top of the windshield, as I recall correctly. Kind of went across the top of the windshield, and that is there after Newman's wreck in the 2003 Daytona 500 when he was in the 12 car and flipped very violently, and just like the car was just nearly disintegrated when he got done flipping. And believe it or not, I really didn't know until this week. I know I did forget to mention this on the show, but I had no idea that Ryan Newman was such a big advocate for safety in NASCAR. And he, after that wreck, told NASCAR, hey, we need to put in another bar here, for safety reasons. And so I actually never knew that Ryan Newman was such a big advocate for safety in NASCAR, and I actually should have kind of known because, Ryan Newman has been in a lot of bad crashes, not nearly as bad as what we saw Monday, but he has been in some bad wrecks. So just wanted to point that out. So I'm listening to this, and they're talking about all the safety features and things like that, and then I'm like, I'm just sitting there thinking, I'm like, okay, you're showing all these safety features that are already an installment, but what can you do now? What can you do to prevent what happened on Monday? And they later mentioned that for NASCAR, they're obviously going to look into this, and They pretty much said what I said on Wednesday, is that, we don't know what safety features are going to be put in, but they're definitely going to do something. So it is kind of just a wait-and-see thing. Obviously, I expect them to make changes to the driver's compartment and things of that nature. What I also didn't know is apparently, I think it was Bob Pockris who tweeted something about I don't know if it's actually like an onboard camera, but it's a camera in the driver's cockpit when a car, like the second it wrecks, somehow it has like a signal that makes the camera, I guess, turn on, and it shows the driver's cockpit when they're in a wreck. So if they ever need it after a violent wreck or a serious injury, obviously a wreck like this, they're going to want to see that footage to see what exactly happened to the driver. And NASCAR's not going to release a video like that. They're just going to use that for, ways to see how they can improve the safety. So, and quite frankly, it's a good thing that they're not going to release a video like that. But yeah, that's the update there. I did find it strange that NASCAR posted the full race, the full Daytona 500 race on their YouTube page, but they cut out the ending. They cut out where Newman wrecked. They pretty much went up all the way up to the point to where Newman and Blaney are bumper to bumper, and then all of a sudden it just cuts and you see the replays of the finish. And they didn't even show the Newman wreck. They didn't show the aftermath. I don't blame them for showing the aftermath. Quite frankly, it's a good thing they cut that out, but it's just strange. It was just a bit odd to me that they cut out the wreck when they uploaded the full race. I mean, I don't know. I guess I suppose everybody has, I mean, obviously, if you're a race fan, you've seen the wreck probably multiple times, so I guess they just didn't feel the need to put it in there, but nonetheless, they didn't. So I just thought it was a bit strange. I wasn't like, against it or anything, or for not putting that in there. I was kind of just wondering why they didn't do that, but that's the update there. So, also, I did forget to mention, going back to safety, I listened to at least the beginning of Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s podcast from, I think it was recorded the night after. So, Junior's talking about the wreck, and he's talking about how, he's praying for Ryan and things like that. And they're talking about restrictor plate racing, or super speedway racing, I should say, because I know they don't use restrictor plates anymore, but the tapered spacers now, I think that's what they call them. But anyway, he's talking about driver safety and things like that, and he's saying, Junior's just going on and on about how much he hates the spoiler, the big 8-inch spoiler. And I do want to say, I don't know much about, like, the aerodynamics of the car or anything like that, but what I do know is, and Junior mentioned it, the big 8-inch spoiler, it allows drivers to get big runs of momentum on guys, and it allows them to pack up more and things of that nature. So I'm under the presumption, if I'm gonna guess what NASCAR is gonna do, I mean, my prediction would be, and at least my advice would be, to get rid of that big spoiler. And I know NASCAR loves their pack racing, I know fans love their pack racing, but I mean, after Monday, it's like, do you really want to see it anymore? I mean, that's what I was thinking about. And I can't say I don't want to see super speedway racing anymore, but I obviously do not want to see this style of racing anymore, or at least this era package. I know it makes things more exciting, but at the same time, I mean, which is more important? You know what I mean? The excitement level or the safety level? And I think, obviously, no question, the safety level rules out the excitement rule. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. It's kind of, like I said, it's a wait and see kind of thing. And I just know there's going to be something done, because NASCAR is they're very adamant about safety, whether it's the safer barriers, the Hans devices, the belts, anything. They're gonna look into this and see what they can do. So that's the update there. No other really comments about the Ryan Newman incident. I guess my closing remarks about the incident would be, as I mentioned before, this is a wake-up call. This is a wake-up call for NASCAR, whether it's, the drivers, the fans, whoever. This is a wake-up call that, despite all the safety features, these things can still happen. And that was definitely harshly reminded on Monday night. But other than that, I'm obviously glad that Ryan Newman seems to be okay, and still don't really know his injuries. I think his dad kind of did. I saw somewhere on Facebook that his dad was saying that he had bruising to his head. So that's still a very serious thing. So I just wish the best for him and hope for a very speedy recovery. Whether he drives again or not is obviously up to him. I'm under the presumption that he is going to race again. Just the fact that, when drivers get injured, you always hear, as I mentioned on Wednesday, one of their first questions are, when can I get back in a race car? And, like I said, I don't want to speak for Ryan Newman. I'm pretty much repeating the same thing I said on Wednesday, but, I don't want to speak for Newman, but, I'm sure he probably wants to get back in a race car. And I just wish all the best to him, whether he retires or not. And even if he does retire, it's like he has nothing left to prove to anybody. He was one of the hardest racers in the sport. He won a lot of races. He competed for championships. And, he was the Rocket Man. I think 2003 he had like 10 pole awards, and that's how he got that nickname. And he's just he's one of those old school hard-nosed racers, and we'll see what happens. We'll see if he gets back in a race car. I certainly hope he does, if he wants to do it. And yeah, all the best to the guy. All the best to the guy and his family. So there you go. And I do want this to be kind of a transition show. I want to kind of, I still definitely wanted to talk about the Newman incident when I came on here, but I do want to start moving into, transitioning kind of back to normal, because there is racing this weekend, and I can imagine that, there probably are a lot of fans who might be opting out this week of watching. And I obviously, for those fans, I can't blame them. I am going to be watching the racing this weekend, and pretty much I'm watching the racing this weekend for one, because, I'm obviously a huge race fan, and number two, obviously ties into this, is because as a race fan and as a race car driver or team owner or crew member or whoever, it's, the old cliche of, the only way to move on is get to the next race. And for me, that's just how I feel. The only way to move on from this is to get to the track next week and go racing, and that's how this sport has a way of moving forward. And they're going to move forward this weekend with Las Vegas and California and onward. And Ryan Newman is okay, and we're going to, NASCAR's going to do everything they can to make these cars safer, and, we'll go from there. So, but like I said, if fans want to opt out this weekend, I can't blame you. After watching last week, I can see a lot of people saying, there's no way I can watch next week after what I saw. And, who knows? There may have been some fans like, there's no way I can even watch this anymore. And, still to a degree, I can't blame you, because what we saw Monday was just horrific. I mean, everything about it. The incident, the Fox broadcast, up until that point, just how scary it was. I mean, everything about it was just, it was horrible. I mean, everything about that night was horrible, but, after that, it was all positive. It was all positive news that, he had been released, and he's walking out with his daughters and everything like that. But Monday night was just horrific. It was the worst crash I've ever seen. It really was. I can't, and I think it, not even just the crash itself, I just think of the whole, everything, the aftermath, the wreck, the aftermath, everything leading up until finding out he was, had non-life-threatening injuries. It was horrible. But yeah, just well wishes to Ryan Newman and his family, and hope to see him soon. So it was announced on Wednesday that Ross Chastain will replace Ryan Newman for the near future. There is no timetable for a return for Ryan Newman at this point. If he does decide to return, there's no timetable right now. And so Ross Chastain is going to fill the seat. And I speculated on Wednesday that, I didn't know if this was just a one-off, or, were they going to split up the races between multiple drivers. But it does appear that Ross Chastain is the number one guy to fill the spot for the near future. And this was a good pick by Roush. And, Ross Chastain he's getting a big opportunity here. And it's obviously not under the circumstances, it's not the opportunity Ross Chastain wanted, but nonetheless, he is getting an opportunity. And he's getting an opportunity to shine in a top-notch ride. And I've said multiple times that if you put Ross Chastain in a top-notch ride, he is going to be a big star. And I still stand by that. And this, as I mentioned, under very unfortunate circumstances, this is his opportunity. And when I see Ross Chastain, first of all, I mean, he's a great racer. And he really showed that last year, being the busiest driver in the garage, running all 3 series, and winning some truck races, winning an Xfinity race. I mean, he's been phenomenal, and he almost won that Daytona 500 on Monday. I mean, he was right up there in the thick of things, and he got this huge run with like 4 laps to go, and I thought he was going to go to the front. I didn't think he was going to win, but boy, he had a shot at a good finish, and he got caught up in a wreck. But I just think if you put this guy in a top-notch ride, he's going to be a big star. He's the most likable guy you could ever meet. I've met him a couple of times. He's a very nice guy. He smashes watermelons when he wins. I mean, how could a race fan not get behind that? That's all I was thinking. When I saw Ross Chastain for the first time, I'm thinking, how can fans not get behind this? He's a watermelon farmer, and he smashes watermelons on the front straightaway when he wins. How could you not get behind that? And he's a great guy. And he's a great racer. And I don't think he could be as popular as Chase Elliott. I mean, obviously Chase Elliott, he's the son of Bill Elliott. He's made himself into a pretty big star over the past couple of years, but Ross Chastain could probably be like in the top 3 or top 5 most popular drivers. I mean, he's that likable, he's that good, and if you put this guy in a top-notch ride in the next couple of years, which I do think it's going to happen, I think he's going to take advantage of this opportunity, and he's going to make the most of it, and he's going to drive the wheels off the car, and I think people are going to be very impressed. And you know what? Jimmy Johnson's retiring at the end of 2020, and we really have no idea who's going to be in that 48 car. So I don't know. I don't know, but I mean, if you're going to ask me right now, I mean, I would put Ross Chastain in that car. Why not? Why not? So we'll see, though. And he's getting a big opportunity this weekend and for at least the near future. So we do have Cup racing this weekend from Las Vegas. Las Vegas is now the second race of the year, believe it or not. Kind of weird. Obviously the past 5 or 6 years it has been Atlanta, and then before that it was Phoenix, and then before that it was California. So now we're going to Las Vegas. This is, in fact, our West Coast swing. We have Las Vegas, then we go to Auto Club Speedway, California, and then we have Phoenix, or ISM Raceway, which will end up being the championship race at the end of the year. So that one is going to be very interesting. And Kyle Larson said on Junior's podcast that we're going to learn a lot in these first couple of races as far as who's going to be good and who's not, and I definitely agree. I mean, more often than not, within the first, 5 or 6 races, okay, who's going to be good this year, and we'll see what happens this weekend. Like I said, it's going to be a transition race for everybody to kind of put this Daytona 500 behind them, put the finish behind them, and move on. And as far as this weekend goes, it is kind of difficult to make a pick. I mean, because you're pretty much just kind of picking anybody because you don't really know who's going to be good on these mile and a halves yet. I mean, obviously the Toyotas are going to be good. You know, Mark Truex Jr., Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, those guys, they're going to be really strong. You know, the Penske and Haas guys as well. The Hendrick guys, the Hendrick Motorsports guys, it is kind of a question mark. You know, the past 2 or 3 years, they kind of have a rep for not getting going early in the year, and kind of, you know, figuring it out, you know, kind of halfway through the year, and they finally get going. So it is going to be, it's going to be, keep an eye on those Hendrick cars, you know, whether or not they get off to a good start this year, or if it's going to be kind of a, it's going to be kind of a work on it throughout the season year for Hendrick, and kind of get it right, you know, halfway through the year, because that's kind of what it was last year. But nonetheless, this weekend I'm going to go with Kevin Harvick. I think Kevin Harvick is going to win this weekend in Las Vegas. And Kevin Harvick, he's a 2-time Las Vegas winner. And, you know, didn't do as strong on the mile and a halfs last year as he did in 2018. I mean, 2018, I mean, he just tore it up. Remember, he had 8 wins, lots of them coming on mile and a halfs, and a really solid year for Kevin. And I'm going to go with Harvick this weekend. We'll see how the Stewart-Haas cars do, but I think Harvick would be a solid pick for this weekend, so we'll see what happens. But that's my prediction. Kevin Harvick, I think, is going to win at Las Vegas. Be interesting to see how the mile and a half racing goes this year, but yeah, there you go. So then we have Xfinity on Saturday, and once again, you know, this is the second race of the year, so it's kind of a feel-out process on who's going to be good and who's not. And boy, without Tyler Reddick, Cole Custer, and Christopher Bell in the field, it's it's hard to pick who I think is going to win, but I'm going to go with Chase Briscoe this weekend. I just think Chase Briscoe is really going to have a good year. He showed vast improvements in 2019. He did win Iowa, and he showed a lot of consistency. And so I think Chase Briscoe is probably going to be one of the top guys. I refuse to mention them as the big three. I was so sick of that last year. Just big three, big three, big three. I got to hear about this big three. I think it's just because they say it so much, and I get so annoyed. But yeah, I mean, as far as the top guys go for 2020, I think you're probably looking at Justin Allgaier, Austin Cindric, and Chase Briscoe. And I mean, Justin Allgaier, obviously he's a veteran of the series. He you know, he's been consistent just about every year he's been with Junior Motorsports, and I think he's going to be one of the top guys this year. Chase Briscoe as well. Like I mentioned, he's shown vast improvements in 2019, and Austin Cindric, same deal. You know, he showed a lot of improvement. And so I think that's going to be your top guys this year, and probably Noah Gragson, close fourth. He got that Daytona win, so he's coming off a big high, and I think they're going to be really strong this year. Ross Chastain will be very close as well, I have a feeling, in the Colleague Racing car. So there you go. But my pick this weekend, I'm going to go with Chase Briscoe. So I think Chase Briscoe wins Las Vegas. And tonight, we have Truck Series racing at 9 o'clock on FS1. Kyle Busch is in the field, and, well, I'm picking Kyle Busch, everybody. I know that's probably a surprise, sarcasm, believe it or not, to some people, that I'm picking Kyle Busch to win the truck race. I know it's probably you know, an easy pick, but it's also a smart pick. So there you go. I'm going to go with Kyle Busch, and really the story of this race is going to be, will Kyle Busch mess up? And I just don't believe he will. It's the second race of the truck year, and it's Kyle Busch at his home track in Las Vegas. So it's really hard to say anybody else is going to win. And sometimes Kyle Busch, he does get foiled, and somebody goes up there and beats him. But I don't think it happens tonight, everybody. I think Kyle Busch is going to win, and yeah, there you go. So yeah, Kyle Busch is going to win tonight, the truck race. Chase Briscoe, I think, will win on Saturday, and then Sunday will be Kevin Harvick winning. So look at that. I guess it would be a Stewart-Haas racing Saturday and Sunday win. So there you go. Well, that is it, everybody. And I will be back Sunday night to go over all the action from Las Vegas. And that is it. I'll talk to you later.